Bert Cabot.
John O'Brien, Royalton and Tunbridge.
David Durfee from Shaftesbury down in Bennington County.
Leland Morgan, I represent Grand Isle County and West Milton.
Jed Lipsky, Lamoille one Scout.
Richard Nelson, Orleans One Derby.
And I'll just say before I do turn it over to you that, so this is an organization that represents farmers of all sorts in the Champlain Valley. We've just been having a conversation with the agencies of ag and natural resources on clean water. But during the course of that conversation, Lake Champlain came up. We have a letter that is, we mentioned a minute ago, that's on our webpage that is from the coalition that speaks to the issues we're just discussing that happened. So.
Great, thank you. So I'm Vijay Nazareth, the Executive Director at the Champlain Valley Farmer Coalition. I've been at the job for about 3 years. And I'm going to very quickly give all our farmers an opportunity to quickly introduce themselves, and we'll talk about a few different things. So Holly, we'll start with you.
Holly Mayhew, owner and operator of Tubbs Crossing Farm. I am a bulk milk dairy goat's milk shipping to Vermont Creamery, 450 head and 240 acres in West.
Lorenzo Whitcomb. I farm with my brother and nephew in Williston, Vermont. We're transitioning from a dairy farm to a grain farm, growing mainly corn and soybeans for other Vermont dairies.
John Lucas, rural Vermont, milk 300 cows for about lake, ship all mine up to Cabot in Millbury.
My name is Ramsey Mellish and I have a diversified farm. We sell milk, beef, pork, eggs, and we are in Cornwall.
Tim Cahart, farm in partnership with my brother Steve and Addison Cahart Brothers, family farm. We currently have the 4th generation there with my daughter and my nephew on board now. Large farm, cover a lot of acres, and committed to water quality, environmental, vice president newly with the coalition. Ramsey is the president now after Brian Kemp has stepped down for some transition purposes happening on the farm that he's been on all along. So we look forward to working with everyone here and doing our part and educating and informing what happens.
Welcome.
I think that gentleman's got that 18-something barn.
Yeah.
1880 barn.
1880 barn.
We love that.
Yeah, you're a postcard in here some days.
Oh, yeah, no, it's get a lot of newspapers, postcards.
Yeah. So we're about 200 members in our coalition. 130 of them are farms, pretty diversified, but I would still say that we're heavy into dairy. When you look at where we are in Addison County, we've got 3 programs oriented towards water quality, and you've heard a lot of that in your previous meeting today. We also have a workforce development program where we take kids from the high schools in Addison County and we put them on the farm to learn about conservation practices. They actually do soil sampling and so on, sort of hands-on learning. And this is to address the labor issue that we have in the state and want kids to be excited about farming. And recently we got a grant from the Dairy Business Innovation Center that funded our Young Farmer program. And we have a few young farmers with us today. And we think it's really, really important for us to support them with grant writing, financial planning, etc. So a few things on our minds, and obviously we're not going to cover all of it in great detail today, but happy to come back and talk to you about it. So we talked about the EPA's directive, and I'm sure you've on water quality and K4 requirements and where that's going to end up. We think a lot of progress has been made with RAPs in terms of where we are with water quality in the Lake Champlain Basin. We obviously have a great relationship with both the Agency of Ag and the NR. We work very closely with them. And if there is disagreements, it's between them. It's not so much between us and them. That relationship has gone pretty well with both the agencies. So no matter where this ends up, we're happy to work with either agency on regulation. So that's kind of the position of the coalition. The neonics bill passed last year. We did testify on that bill, and we pretty much adopted the New York bill in terms of the standards. And we took a pretty balanced, pragmatic approach on that. But we remain very concerned with the availability of seed. So when we talk to the seed companies, there's not a lot of information out there in terms of, will there be enough seed? What's the price going to be? Will the varieties that were available to farmers with neonics, will those varieties be available? What's the exemption process going to look like if farmers think they may have a problem with a best station? these are all real concerns, real issues that affect livelihoods of farmers. So we need those issues to be addressed in the coming years. Obviously, the uncertainty at the federal level in terms of funding for conservation programs, that's impacting our farmers directly and our ability to do our work with the conservation practices on the farm. A lot of that money is frozen at the time being, and we don't know what the outcomes are going to be when the money's going to be available again. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and that has a direct impact on water quality. It's a direct impact on our climate work with climate smart agriculture. So we'll have to see how that plays out. The issue of labor, farm workers, deportations, it's been in the news a lot. Extremely concerned about that. It's impacting our workers. It's impacting farmers as well. There's a lot of stress right now that workers are experiencing. Many of them are afraid to drive to the local supermarket or the local Walmart like they used to, and someone's going to take them there. I would imagine the stress is impacting productivity on the farm, perhaps impacting health as well. So we need to get around this issue and find solutions. Our farmers treat the workers as though they're part of the family. They don't treat them as workers. So collectively, we have to find a way to make this work. Yeah, I think that's true.
I absolutely.
Yeah. We're worried about our small farms. I'll be quite honest with you. We see a lot of consolidation going on. The big farms have the ability, the wherewithal to buy other farms and grow. Milk being a commodity, prices don't change a whole lot, and yet everything that goes into milk production does change with prices, availability of fertilizers, seed, etc., labor issues, labor costs. So it's a tough business to be in if you're a small farmer. And many of the small farms are going to disappear if we don't address this issue. And we think one of the ways to address this is by opening markets, finding private companies who are willing to come in here, providing incentives for them to establish businesses in Vermont, tax incentives for private equity to come in on value-added products as an example, right? So if you can get the value chain to move and create supply, then all of a sudden now, the market's a lot bigger for our small farms. If not, I'm afraid a lot of these small farms are going to go away. We're going to end up with just a few farms in Vermont. So there's some real risk of that. Finally, we all know about the extreme weather events. I mean, just about every year, the last 3 years, we had a drought. The first year I came to Vermont, then we had 2 years where we had floods that had huge impacts, no matter where you were across the state, right? You got impacted in some way or form. And there was aid available through FSA and others, but it didn't often get to where it was needed in a timely way. So we need an emergency fund in the state where we can get people money and we get it to them as quickly as they need it, because there's no point getting money 6 months from, when your crop's wiped out. You may not be around for the next season. So we need to be practical and think about those issues as well. So that covers all the ground that I have. And I want to give you an opportunity to talk to us, and we can answer your questions. And we got our whole team here to answer the questions as well.
Yeah, no.
Thank you. Yeah, that's speaking to the aid thing, that's very real. Linda Lindham, a potato grower over in Guildhall. 2 years in a row, the Connecticut River took out his potato farm. He's out of business this year. He said, I can't survive it because the money couldn't come fast enough. And that's a very real issue, and that's something, and I don't know if it's addressed state level, federal level.
Because I know Massachusetts does have an emergency fund. Now, I don't know for what purpose, how much they give out to individual farmers, but there is a fund. So timing is important.
We're supposed to get a block of money coming in, and it was decided in December. I don't know if the money's still coming or if it's froze right now.
Yeah.
And it's a substantial block of money.
Actually, thank you for mentioning that, because this question came up the other day when the federal delegation was in, and I talked to the secretary to get an update, and he wanted me to reassure the committee that federal money for 6 to 8 states, New England states, Alaska, and Hawaii, was still he felt comfortable that it would be here within 6 weeks, or that there would be an appropriation within 6 weeks. That's not the right word. Within 6 weeks, there would be something solid with a dollar figure. That's retroactive for 23 and 24 disaster relief. But to your point about a fund, there is, I know there's a bill being introduced both in the Senate and the House that would create a fund for future disaster relief, and we'll have to see where that goes in the session.
We think that's the new norm, these extreme weather events. I don't think there's anybody around this room who doesn't expect something to happen in the coming year. We need to be prepared, so we're not reactive, we're more proactive in addressing some of those issues.
Committee questions or thoughts? Just to the clean water issue, we will be, this committee will be asked to look at language that the Agency of Agriculture has proposed, that it wants to propose to the EPA. The EPA is asked to see proposed statutory changes that would help the state comply with what it's asking now. And I think they want to see that by the middle of March. So there are a couple of different, there's the Ag Agency's proposal, which will be coming into this committee. And then there's alternative language, which has already been looked at in the Environment Committee, which would essentially transfer all the responsibility onto the natural resources. That's where things stand at the moment. And I'm not going to go any farther because that's where we are at the moment.
Yeah, and I'll let them speak to this, but I think farmers want a couple of things. They want clarity, they want protection, legal protection, to be more specific. So whatever outcome that delivers that is something that we would be more favorably inclined to support.
But anybody else who's here, again, I know that some of the committee folks may need to leave, but we have a couple more minutes. If anybody who joined you wants to say anything, we'd be happy to have them speak up too.
We're happy to
add this, I think as a coalition member and a farmer that, we're ready to work with whatever agency or group ends up overseeing our required ag practices that I think when I walked in the room, I saw Julie Moore and Laura at PTH. I've worked with both of them extensively. So I think the state has a lot of good people in place, and it's just getting it ironed out. There's going to be some changes.
Yeah.
What I'd like to see for my farm is, we've been doing all these practices for 10 years now, 12 years. We're doing the cover crops, the no-till, we're building infrastructure to collect leachate, we're doing all these things. What I would like from whoever's regulating is to know that we're gonna be protected in case we're ever sued by an outside party. Essentially, like, we've checked off all our boxes, like we've done all these things. Now, we wanna know that the agency or whoever is gonna be behind us if it ever goes to trial.
Before I acknowledge Representative Nelson, just want to see if anybody else had anything you wanted to say, either on that subject or any other subject.
I would just add, like others have said, as I said to the Senate committee when we were down there speaking about just our journey with the clean water and the lake and the TMDL, right? I think farmers, there was a lot of finger pointing in the beginning of the role that agriculture played in the deterioration of the water quality in our state. A lot of things have changed over a short period of time. We've proven that we can adapt. We've proven that we have a really good story to tell. That agriculture is why people want to come to this state to enjoy what is here because of the work that we do. So we've proven that we can do it and that we are a big piece of the solution. And we want to put our best foot forward to do what's right for the state, for our own businesses, for the environment. So we're all sustainable and in this wonderful state that we call our home. That's all that I really have to add to it.
A couple things. I am bringing a new right to farm bill. Expected any minute. It's the one Bobby Starr. I've tried, we're gonna keep trying, and it will protect us from those nuisance lawsuits. It will give the complainant right to arbitration, But if we're following the required agricultural practices, we're covered. And I would expect ag or A&R would be there with us as long as we're following the rules. We have to follow the rules. We know that. The other point of the Champlain, the water people were here a few weeks ago with their book, and they were champion agriculture for the work that we have done to make our state better and our water quality better, and for our kids and grandkids too. Last week in the meeting with the governor, people, Kelly Cannell was there, and Audette, Eugene Audette, and Brian Jones. And we learned that through the Ag Innovation Group, that dairy processors of Mont Creamery, your goat farm, the dairy, the sheep and everything, raw milk sales, we contribute over $4 billion to the Vermont economy. We're right up there neck and neck with tourism. And I will surmise that we are the reason tourism gets a lot of those dollars. So take that word and spread it, and let's build upon it.
Yeah, I think you raise an important point, and it's often forgotten in some of these conversations where people focus and say, oh, large dairy is the problem. It's the opportunity, right? So whether it's tourism or economic value, and they're all, using regenerative practices on their farms, right? Something the public doesn't know a lot about. So this is a collective effort to address water quality, right? And we need to do a better job with messaging, I think. It's not the work that's actually happening on the farm. It's, are we letting the public know what's happening?
Well, I see Representative O'Brien, and then maybe we'll.
Just a quick poll. How many of you have enrolled your farms in current use? Yeah. That's been a big discussion. Yeah.
Right. Mr. Kehart, was your grandfather in the house? Yes, my grandfather Roger was up here for many years.
I served with them back in the 80s.
Yeah. Well, Joe.
You've been here that long.
We had a quick conversation with, were you here last week when we had an event down in the cafeteria?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I heard that there were 3 farms in Orwell supplying
Yes.
goat farms, supplying goat dairy, supplying milk to the cheese company, and that they could use 3 more or maybe even more than that.
When you here.
I was.
Yeah.
Strawberry zest.
That's right. It's the
Yeah.
best way to
We both had
He remembers food.
You can't find it.
I'm looking for it.
You never
One.
know.
We're all, I think we're all wrapped up for today. Thank you all for